Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Lusheen. I typically record weekly review videos like this for my graduate classes, but semester's been kind of crazy. And so I'm going to kind of be all encompassing here and cover a bunch of stuff in sort of this final one. So here we are in week 6. I did repost or posted a previously recorded message, and I listened to it. And I'm like, yeah, most of it still suits you. And so I posted it. It hopefully provides some uplifting messaging and so forth. Also, if you haven't seen it, I want everybody to sign up for a presentation. Now, the reason for the presentation is not as an assignment. It's meant to be a way for us to all come together after this experience and kind of share, the work we did and, talk to each other, because we've done it all through the discussion board. If anybody, I tried to choose non-workday times. I'm trying to respect you guys' limited time, but if it's better to present during a workday, let me know, because I'm available during the week. Definitely, I'm kind of extending myself, imposing my family by hosting the presentations on the weekend and evenings. So if it works better for you guys during the day, let me know. Email me right away, and I will reassign and recreate the opportunities. So please check that out if you haven't already. I know a bunch of you already signed up for recording to submit, and I offer it because I have to, but it's just not advantageous to anybody. So that's just what I'm going to say. A course survey email should be coming out here pretty soon. I believe it goes out the Monday of the final week, and it's due by like Saturday of that week, so it's not open very long. I will send out reminder emails as soon as I see that it has gone out. And all you need to do is complete it and then take a screenshot of either the screen once you've completed it or the email you should get to verify you completed it. And then as far as the final paper prep, some of you have attended the office hours and asked me, what happens if it's a little bit longer than 10 pages? Perfectly fine. My earlier answer years ago was, it takes what it takes. But then some people turned in like a 2-pager and it was so incomplete. So I started assigning page numbers based on overall averages of what students have submitted. If it takes a few more pages than 10, fine. If it's a couple under, that's fine, as long as it's hitting all the main points of what you need to tell me in order for me to understand the justification for the topic, the proper context and scope for it, enough background so I understand the basic study construct, or at least the research construct, sort of, around what you're planning to study, some very clear study objectives, and then a shot at writing methods. That's what I'm looking for, okay? So I will be adding this video right here. I'll name it differently, and it'll be a different amount of time as well. So usually I do this weekly, but you guys are seeing it here at the end. So through 5 weeks, I study all my classes. If you don't know me yet, I'm very heavy into data analytics. And so I study my students as they go through because I believe there are leading indicators to student performance. And every semester, I find that is verified. So only one of you didn't complete the ethics training, and that's fine. Every semester I get 1 or 2, but they lose the 10% on that. 3 of you have not received the final approval for the research question, which is fine. You're just going to lose the points on that aspect of the project. But then again, it's probably going to be a little bit detrimental to your final paper too, because I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. If you're watching this, you're like, oh, I didn't receive approval. Contact me right away. A 10-minute phone call, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the office hour, we can straighten you out, and I can give you a boost in the scores. And then of the class, only 5 of you are actually scoring below a B+, which I think that's really phenomenal. So you can see here the overall scores. I track time per week, touches per week, participation per week, because that's what Canvas tracks, but then I manually enter it once a week. I've got the overall, I got the average, median, max, min grades, and then you're actually, same thing with quizzes, assignments, and discussions, because that's what I score every week. What's interesting is, so we've got, I like to look at the minimums here, and I'm sorry, yeah, the low scores. So the low score is not the same person. It's not one person. Different people hold the dubious honor of being the lowest one. This here is someone did not participate 1 week, and so that immediately is going to drop them 20%. Because if you just do the minimum, just 4 posts before, the evening of Sunday evening, you're going to get that 85. And yeah, so that person didn't. As far as assignments go, we have some people who missed assignments and weren't able to submit it or didn't submit it. And they asked me like 3 weeks later. It's like, dude. And so that's where that came in. Or they just didn't do it right for like 3 weeks in a row before they actually looked at my notes. For the quiz, you can just be, maybe you just took the quiz too quickly, or you're not a good quiz taker. 76 is not that bad for quizzes, but could be better, especially considering, what the average and median are. And then the grades, as far as the people who are below B+, there seems to be a there is a trend or a consistency there. So let's go to the next level analysis. So I run Pearson correlation tests. It's my favorite corollary statistic. Just because it's very simple. I like simple statistics, and you can see here, Pearson is just basically the covariance of two variables divided by the product of their standard deviations. Very simple, assuming normality. So what I do is I run it in Excel, and then I download a Pearson correlation, Pearson significance table from this website here. And so what it does is it adjusts the minimum requirements for, it gives it by what your probabilities are. So this is a 1 in 10 probability of getting a false positive. That's 1 in 100. And I usually set mine at a 1 to 20. 0.05 is typically the threshold people use for it. Yeah. And so we have 21 students in the class, so I need a minimum of 0.43 in order to achieve the minimum significance, and then a 0.526 gives me excellent significance. So what did we find here? Time has no significant relationship because we had some outliers. Some people have been on very, very long. Some people have been on very, very little. And so because of that, that extended the standard deviations for those variables, for that particular variable, making it almost impossible. Now, if I was to remove those, sure, maybe it improves a little bit. I'd rather take it at its realistic state. So you can see here, time, really no significance here. No predictability with time because we have two extremes here in this class. And that's fine. That happens. Touch, on the other hand, did not have as much extremes. And so what I found is that, in particular, the number of different things people open per week, on average, had a significant correlation with their grade. Isn't that interesting? Because whether you open something that has nothing to do with the grade, and so, but it does have predictability there. It also has a higher predictability with the discussion board score, which is weird, right? But I guess when you open more things or opening things more frequently, that may also put you in a place where you're going to go onto the discussion board more and participate. So that's my theory. So that was interesting, right? Now, the other one is participation, and so that's the number of things you post. And so it's primarily dominated by discussion. So when we have a 0.804 as a Pearson correlation between the discussion board scores and the number of participations, that means 80% is accounted for by participation quantity. The other 20% variance is probably timeliness or the quality of the posts. That's all I can figure, because the participation doesn't take into account when it was posted and the quality of it. So isn't that interesting that 80% is that? I thought it was interesting. The other thing participation did is it did have a higher influence on grade, but still discussion is only part of that, which is kind of interesting too, but that's highly significant. The other is the assignment. So the number of times you post on discussion improves your assignment. I don't know. And I think that's more of a personality thing. But as you can see, quiz scores are very different. It's a different skill set than touches, assignments, and discussion. So I think that's really interesting. But the quiz, here's how I view the quiz. The quiz verifies if you've done the reading. That's it. That's all I take it as. So anyway, I hope that was interesting to you. I do this in all my classes. It also helps me identify outliers, like I just said. It also helps me detect when someone might be cheating, because there are consistencies. All right, so I did have a concern, and I don't mean to come off as that guy or that professor, but last week you were asked, how has this class maybe influenced your professional practice? And there was a very, there were a few responses that, nope, didn't change how I do anything. Those are the same students that are struggling in the class. And I believe the reason is that they haven't really committed themselves to what this is all about. And if you go back to my original, the pre-lecture recordings, if you go back to that, I assume they didn't watch them, because if they did, they might understand, or they just forgot. This should be transformational for you. That's what graduate school, that's the purpose of graduate school. That's the difference between undergrad and grad, or, professional development and graduate school, is that in those environments, you're fed information and told how to do things. Do A, do B, do C. Graduate school, on the other hand, you're asked, how does A, B, and C relate? Is it important? How would you study it? It's meant to foster a deeper critical thinking approach. I know some engineers, when they finish, like, oh, I'm a scientist. No, you're not. You're an engineer. An engineer is basically a scientist, technician, or specialist. You're not there yet. Graduate school pushes you beyond your boundaries, causes you to look at things differently, to question, do I really know that? And I've tried to bring that up with several of you that, like, some of you will go, well, I want to test, how training affects this. Well, what is training? It is such a complex process. And so what about training can be studied, and what outcome can be studied? It can't just be the totality of performance or the totality of the safety program and things like that. It's this process you're going through is, I'm trying to get you to slow down and try to come up with questions, try to find answers to those questions, which allow you then to go to the next step in pursuit of understanding. What you don't know should always be the question on your mind, always. So if this course, which you're going through, is not affecting how you're practicing, you're doing something wrong. And I know this, you guys. My career started as a compliance officer with OSHA. I thought as long as people followed OSHA's standards and did things the way they said, everything would be okay. And then I went through an experience which dawned on me that this is not the case, and that's what drove me to go to graduate school. And when I was in graduate school, I thought I knew everything because I'd been practicing for 6.5 years, and damn it if these ivory tower professors are going to think they know better than me. I was wrong. I was very wrong. And so I had to kind of give myself to the scientific inquiry process, research. And that's what taught me. So now I practice very differently. I'm cautious. I'm measured. And I don't take things for granted. I try to look at things from a systems perspective. And it's proven to be not only enlightening, but I've found great success in my practice now. And when I read the way some of you are currently practicing, you're still practicing from the compliance perspective that you get from a professional development or an undergraduate class. Put that behind you, you guys. Build from it. You can do better. And once you realize what critical thinking really is in the scientific approach, it opens up opportunities you can't imagine. So, why doesn't everybody think that way? Because it's not natural. It's not. We as humans try to keep things as simple as possible. We look for patterns and trends in our lives, and we allow that to extrapolate to answer questions that we don't know. But the problem is we don't know it. Does that make sense? I hope so. I don't mean to be that guy again, but all right. Let's go back to it. I've got the scientific method here. It looks cyclical, but it's not. It's really not. It's all over the place. It's messy, and you guys, a lot of you have experienced that you start going in a direction, and then all of a sudden you go down a rabbit hole, and boy, you came out somewhere else. But it's that experience that I want you all to, allow yourself to learn from, right? And that sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, and then 5 steps forward, 2 steps back, and eventually you get there. But mostly, one thing I keep telling you all is that you probably initially were thinking of a research project that was a painting, but really what a research study is a brushstroke. So it may seem like an insignificant thing, but it's just meant to get you a little bit more information, a little bit more understanding based on what's already out there. So a lot of you would post something. I said, well, I just searched it and I got your answer. Here's the answer. And some of you are saying, well, my research proposal is to, evaluate, which industries have the highest incidence rate. Well, you can look that up right now and tell me what it is. And then based on what that information is, maybe there's another question. And I bet there's an answer for that. And then based on that answer, what led you to it? So I think that's where beginner researchers or graduate students kind of get caught up, is that you want your research question to be something that is already known. You already have that answer, because then you provide that answer. That's what the literature review is about, to say this is what we currently know. And then when you get to the point where this isn't either understood or it's never been applied this way, or these two ideas have never really been tested together, well, then that's your research study. Now, it doesn't really answer a big question. It just gives you insight, a brushstroke, into, maybe the next step or the next study, the next experiment. Okay? I hope that helps. So some final plans for this course, and I really like this quote from former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth, and I think that really describes research. It does, because you got to kind of get it figured out. And then what I've noticed in my career anyway is that I think my advisors knew that I was going to fail, but they let me fail so I understand it better. Do the best you can to come up with a proposal or plan for a study design and for identifying variables and data analyses. But know that if you are to take it to the next level and actually attempt to do the research, there's probably going to have to be some revisions. Just letting you know. The purpose of this course is to put you through the experience of coming up with a research proposal, not to write the perfect research proposal. It's what you learn to get there that is the most important. And I think that's why I like the other video that I posted, the one I had created previously, is that's what I talk about, climbing a mountain, getting to the peak and seeing, oh, this isn't the peak, there's another peak. So I would like you all to try to select a time. You can have a PowerPoint, you don't necessarily have to. I want your presentations to stay within a 5 to 10 minute limit, just so everybody has a chance to talk. If we have fewer than 3 people, you can obviously take more time, and we can interact more. Again, it's meant to be a social, not a graded event, okay? So I don't want you to spend a ton of time putting together this immaculate PowerPoint, because that's not what I'm asking. I'm just, bring something that guides your presentation. That's all I'm asking for. If you, even after this presentation, are like, no way, I don't want to see you or my classmates, I'm going to record it. Go ahead. Just make sure it's posted by the 20th. I'll take a quick look at it. I just want to see what you enjoyed about the process. That's about it. And the final paper is due by Sunday. I can give you a little bit of an extension, but I think grades are due pretty quick in the week. And so I think I have to do all of my grading and post grades by the 22nd. So we're really running up to the deadline, because I think that the next 8-week class begins actually on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, we'll send out reminders when the survey comes out for the course. And I do appreciate everybody completing that. It's if I can get up above like 90% participation, the college is like, good job. So my final thoughts, and this just, going back to the other video, if you haven't watched it, please do. There is quite a bit. This is just a silly Venn diagram. This is not to scale. There's things you know, things you don't know, but the thing is, our brain tricks us. And so there's things we think we know, but we really don't. And that's kind of that's the training you're getting right now. And again, some of you have really given yourself to the process, and you're going to be better for it. Some of you are still resisting. Stop resisting. Let yourself understand what you don't know. And as you learn to cope with that and develop a better understanding on how you can find the truth of things, you'll be better off. Framing the problem is the key to resolving the problem. I strongly believe in that. Whether you, I think it wasn't Roosevelt, was it? Who had said when he has a problem, he widens it or greatens it? No, it wasn't. It was the president who's responsible for implementing the interstates through the United States. It's not Roosevelt, though. Never mind. But the way you frame a problem is the key to solving it. And being more realistic, realizing what you don't know, you're probably more likely to frame it properly. Finally, everyone wants to live on the top of the mountain, but all happiness comes with growth and while you're climbing it. And so just like I said in the other video, enjoy the view. It's the process you go through that really is the best part of this class. I know it was difficult. I know it was difficult to find time. I know it was difficult. That's how it is. I mean, I've tried to give you the greatest experience, but under the most controlled atmosphere possible. When I was in graduate school, for years, I had to figure this out on my own. And what I've tried to do is create this simulation, which, not like the Matrix, but this simulation that allowed you to practice and develop the skills and feel what it's like, but with very low risk or danger to you. Whereas when you're in grad school, if you don't figure it out, you're kind of done. But most people figure it out. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I'm still having office hours, for the last 2 Sundays, except for when we're doing presentations, obviously. But please, if there's a better time for presentations during the workday, let me know, and I will get it fixed. Because I would like to see as many of you as possible, and I want you to share your experience with your classmates. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks, everybody.